Hello, my name is John. Welcome to my Gamester81 show. This is part 2 of my Funspot arcade experience. We're in Funspot. This is Warlords. It's got a cool reflection. It's got a 3D look to it. It's really cool. 720, of course. Ported to a lot of home consoles. This is Dragon Spirits by Atari. And I have that for the TurboGrafx 16. I had no idea Atari made that game. Rolling Thunder, also by Atari. I have that for the NES. Final Lap. It's a two-player pole position, more or less. Not quite as good, though. ZVS. Double Dribble. I had no idea that Konami had made a Double Dribble arcade game. I had that for the NES as well. Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, which is an interesting side-scroller. This is Quantum, which is actually a kind of unusual game. This is Quantum right here, actually. This is a very unusual Atari vector-style graphics game. Very rare and really fun. These are a whole bunch of classic ones. Major Havoc and Tempest, Star Wars, all these vector style Atari games. Love it. Asteroids Deluxe, which is again very similar to Warlords. Got the 3D look to it because of the reflection, and they have the original Asteroids right to the right of it as well at the very end. Some classic Atari games. They got kind of more or less the games are kind of clustered together by company. Super Sprint, here's Super Breakout, Paperboy, Outrun by Sega, Crash, a very old game. Basketball by Atari, a very old school game as well. Some of these are very old. Sprint. And we've got Breakout. These ones are a lot older, obviously. Afterburner. And Video Pinball, that's by Atari. That's a really cool, it's got this like picture on it and then the video. It's a actually a really fun game. It plays very well. Just like a pinball. Dig Dug. Millipede. And a lot of these you don't see every day. There's Tubin in the very corner. Only a few of these machines here weren't working. They have two guys working full time repairing these things. There's Eric, my buddy Eric. Space Harrier, that thing actually moves when you're moving. It's got hydraulics or something on it. It's a very, very fun Sega game. Food Fight, which they're in the process of moving that. Some Tato classics, Lunar Rescue, and some Lock and Chase, some really classic Tato games. Wild Western, Jungle Hunt. Jungle Hunt used to look like Tarzan, and they changed it to make it look like a safari guy. Because I think the guys who own Tarzan, the copyrights to Tarzan, sued Tato. You got Strategy, Buster Bros, Make Tracks, which is kind of like a Pac-Man clone, essentially. Joust 2, which is a really fun game. Came out during the very beginning of the video game crash and do very well, but I love the original Joust. More racing games. This is an interesting shooting game. You have to use this rifle and you have to aim for certain targets. That's by Atari. Not quite sure the name of it, but the very unusual game. Operation Wolf, which is a really fun classic shooter. By Tato, ported to the NES also. This is a Joust cocktail game. Got some more hang on and stuff like that. They're just moving these. Phoenix. And we also have 1943, classic one, and Jump Bug. I hadn't played Jump Bug before. This is Crazy Kong, which is actually a game that was officially licensed by Nintendo. It wasn't made by Nintendo, but it's a Donkey Kong clone, essentially. Q*bert Cubes. I didn't see an original Q*bert here at this Funspot, surprisingly. Which is really surprising because they're really popular. Gauntlet. And this is Indy Force by Atari. This is almost very unusual, like a multiplayer sprint game. You got Gauntlet 2 on the other side by 4-player game. One of the first 4-player arcade games I actually played was Gauntlet. Sega Gremlin. Now that monitor right there, actually, it's a touchpad. She shows you high scores of players and stuff. Junior Pac-Man, Pac-Man Plus, all these Pac-Man games on the side here, all together. Dragon's Lair is tucked in the corner there. Space Ace. Space Invaders Deluxe, Burger Time. Space Invaders regular. (1942) Berserk. Turtles. Berserk was one of the first games I actually played that had, like, you could hear the voice on the where they talked. There's Frenzy, a sequel to Berserk. These are all by Stern. Stern was no more known for pinball, but they did make some handful of games for arcades as well. Ghosts and Goblins. Congo Bongo by Sega. That's basically a Donkey Kong to compete directly for Nintendo. Tron, it's a classic based on the movie. Xenophobe, really fun one. I think it's by Atari as well. Super Hang On. Star Crystals. Karate Champ, I had that on the Commodore 64. Track and Field. Contra, awesome. Many of us know that. Alien Syndrome. Saints Hollow. And Gapless is basically a Galaga 3. There was 2 different names for that. Gapless is one of them. Double Dragon. And Subrock 3D, which is a kind of a, you have to look at the scope there. A lot of unusual Robot Bowl and a lot of unusual games. For sure, Wonder Boy, which is by Sega, ported to the Sega Master System. Eventually came Adventure Island. A long story, but basically it's Adventure Island. Skydiver, Dragon Lair 2. All these were the Laserdisc games that you'll find, which are very rare. I think these are run off of emulator because I think they're just concerned about Laserdisc bumping and scratching and, staying the time, stuff like that. What's really interesting is they have the scoreboard, which I talked about a little bit briefly, and it keeps track of the high scores. There's a game called Lazarin, which I played, and I put in a quarter. I am breaking the highest score on the scoreboard. I ended up getting 106,000. And unfortunately, the score resets after 100,000, and so I didn't really have any proof. I didn't have time to get a camera and prove it, and I didn't take any pictures of it, unfortunately, in time. So, fortunately, Eric, my buddy, was there to witness in person, but it was one of those things that I kind of wish, looking back, I wish I recorded it and did the right thing to get the highest score for the game. It's a Lazarin game, kind of an unusual one, but still a very fun game nevertheless. You saw there was a whole bunch of Nintendo games right there. You had Donkey Kong 2. So now concludes part 2 of Funspot. The third part will include all the arcades in the lower level, which includes a lot more modern games in the 90s and more pinball machines, still some classic arcade games. Thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and I will see you soon. Take care.